Yo, what is up YouTube? And today we're going to be talking about what you guys should be farming for the upcoming Blessings Galore 2x event. Now, I've taken a part of this event twice already, once in beta and once in official game release, so I have a pretty good idea of what you want to farm. I'm going to be breaking down what you guys should be farming based on where your account is at. So basically the 2x event will be running from the 12th until the 14th, so as soon as it hits the 12th in, after the reset, basically what happens is the 2x event will happen and you'll see 3 banners appear on Threshold, Investigation, and GP Outpost. Grim Pursuit for shells is not affected, so if you were planning to farm double shells, it's not going to actually do that. Whether they do it in the future, I don't really know, but honestly I don't have my hopes up because shells are like really impactful to your team building, so they probably did it on purpose. But regardless, Threshold, Investigation, and GP Outpost are going to be buffed and give you double drops. Now, I'm on my free-to-play account, I'm level 43. Currently, I can farm up to Hell 3, but even then, if you are newer to the game, what I recommend farming is going to be primarily Investigation and GP Outpost. So, the reason why I recommend farming these is because there's no RNG, really. You're just kind of farming for stats. And, first and foremost, I think GP Outpost will be the most important for you to farm, and that is because you're going to need to prowess up a lot of your characters. So your skill 1, your skill 2, your skill 3, sure you're not going to upgrade all of the skills, but before you upgrade the skills, you'll see these nodes beforehand give you a lot of stats. So for your teams that you're using a lot, you definitely want to max these stats out because even on your damage dealers, you get a lot more tankier, which is very good. And you also get damage on them from the first node for your S1. It's going to be the same thing for your supports, except S1 isn't necessary because you don't need the damage. You still want to make sure they're bulky. Also on top of that, you will eventually start, progressing into these skill level ups. For example, if you're using something like a Linglo, you will eventually max out our S1 for Aurora and maybe even Doki Doki, which you can see I'm progressing on now. And this will require a ton of GP Outpost mats. And it's not even just for her, there's going to be a ton of characters that you're going to want to build up. Your dieting will also need to be maxed out eventually, so you'll need a ton of these purple ones. So definitely GP Outpost is going to be a very good use of your time, because even if you over farm it, trust me, you cannot over farm it. You'll have some in your inventory sit there for like maybe a week or two, and you'll end up using it on characters that you want to build. So GP Outpost is definitely going to be the best, or one of the best areas of content to farm, not even just for early game players, but for like everyone. Even on my main account, I will be farming this quite a large amount. Now, the second thing I'm going to recommend for newer players is Investigation. Investigation is very good to farm, not even just for newer players, but for people that need to actually star up their team. So basically, that gives you books and these shadow prints, which can be used to level up your characters and star up your characters. And you're going to definitely want to 6-star your DPS. DPSs are pretty much unusable later on unless they're 6-starred, so you definitely want to make sure you do it because starring up your characters gives you a ton of stats. Now, once you 6-star your characters, leveling them up isn't really worth it in my opinion. You can see just to go up 5 levels, I need so many of these books, and the stat gain you get is very low. So I'll show you right now. Right now, I'm at plus 2377 attack. If I use all these books, which is probably like 20 runs on 1x, maybe even more, you'll see that I got literally 28 attack from this. 28 singular attack. So of course there's some like base stat conversions, but overall it's not really that worth it in my opinion after 6 stars to level them up. But for your other characters, if you're trying to star them up to 5 stars, like your supports, right? If you're trying to get like your red Chiaki to 5-star, or your green Sonya, or your Valerian, or your Linglo, then definitely you want to do it. And honestly, eventually you'll 6-star your supports as well for the extra speed. So Investigation is always going to be good to farm. Definitely worth doing. I think it's going to be tied with GP Outpost, especially if you aren't able to consistently farm hard thresholds consistently. I think it's going to be a very good area of content to farm. On top of that, Investigation can drop summons and gems. It's not in the loot pool, but they can drop summons and gems. So if you're looking to summon, Investigation is very good. Even though it's pretty RNG'd if you get one, you can get 2 summons or like, I think it's 20 crystals during 2x when you get the drop, which is insane, right? So there's some gamba right there when you're farming Investigation, if you're farming primarily for summons and gems, which I wouldn't do honestly, but if you need the books and the shadow prints, which pretty much everyone does, and the GP Outpost mats, it's always going to be good to farm. So even if you're in the early game, you're going to get a lot of benefit from this 2x event. Even on my main, I will be farming Investigation and GP Outpost for quite a bit. Now, let's say you're in the mid and late game. So let's say you have some thresholds on farm, you have a lot of your characters built, and you don't really need Investigation and GP Outpost. like a newer player does? Well, it really depends on how far you are into threshold progression. So if you can farm Hell 3 and onwards, I would recommend farming threshold after you farmed GP Outpost Investigation and after you're satisfied with your levels, your star ups, and also your GP prowess. After that, I would consider farming, Hell 3 and onwards, because this is where you can start getting these 3 matrix pieces. Hell 3 and onwards actually drops it. A lot of people have this misconception that only Inferno drops it. Nope, it drops from Hell 3 and onwards. So if you can farm these, it's definitely worth doing as well. Maybe not for all of the 2x, but for some of it. And that's because, Hell 2 and Hell 1 and below, they only drop 2. And even though these are usable, the 3 matrices are going to be super, super important in your mid to late game progression. So Doki Doki can drop Swift Rush and Time Weave, which is going to be the 2 best sets, honestly. The other ones are also very good, don't get me wrong. But Swift Rush and Time Weave will be the best by far for PvE. And it's going to be the 2 best, matrices for PvE in my opinion for your supports. And that's because you get speed from Swift Rush, and you get effect accuracy, which is okay, but the main thing is you get a chance to reset the cooldown of all of your skills by 1 turn, which is super broken in PvE. So if you pair them together, you're cycling quickly and you have a chance to reduce your cooldowns. This is going to be very good and only attainable with 3 matrix pieces. So if you think about it, let's say, the left side pieces here are all 3 Swift Rush. So I'll have 9 Swift Rush here, right? And let's say I have 3 Time Weave pieces on the right side instead of these Valiant Core Onslaughts, right? So it'd be a 9-9 split, right? If I had 3-3-3, 3-3-3 for Time Weave and Swift Rush, right? So I'd be at 9 out of 9. And then if I equip a shell, that's 3 out of 3 as well, like this one, then I will be at 12 Swift Rush and 12 Time Weave, activating both of these 12 matrices. And the only way you can do this is with you need one of these shells, that's 3 and 3, which you can farm. It does take some time, but a lot of matrices, a lot of shells can drop this combination. And the hardest part is honestly getting those 3-3-3 splits. And if you're using it on a debuffer like Kazuyo, it's even harder because you're primarily looking for something with effect accuracy, right? So, that's why farming during 2x is very good for Hell 3 and onwards, because it enables this super broken Swift Rush Time Weave combination. But for Hell 2 and below, you will not be able to, get any of these pieces that will help to that combination. So that's why Hell 3 and onwards is very important. Obviously, for other matrices, you also want 3 as well. For momentum, right, if you have 3 matrix modules, you only need 3 of them with the 3 matrix shell, and you can, get that 12. As opposed to if you have 2 matrix modules, you'll need like 4 or 5 pieces, which can really hurt the fact that you can't really equip an 8 matrix secondary one, which is very annoying. So because of that, 3 matrix is always better, makes sense, right? So Hell 3 and onwards is what I recommend for farming threshold. Now, in terms of what threshold you want to farm, I think Doki Doki and Aurora are the 2 best. If you are still progressing through PvE, I think Doki Doki is still very good. For PvP, obviously, it's very good as well because it drops Swift Rush, which is speed. But Aurora also drops very good sets too. What I mean by this is it drops the best combination for DPSs, Momentum and Fury. If you're running a debuff team, you're going to run Momentum Fury on a ton of characters. Even if you're not running debuffs and you're not running Momentum, Fury is going to be the best 8 matrix combination for basically a ton of characters that like to do damage. On top of that, you also get a chance to get the best PvP combination for turn 2 tank down bruiser players. So if you can't take the first turn consistently and you don't want to get cleaved, well, you farm Aurora because you get Bloodbath, which is super broken. Just read the 12 set. You get 55% reduced damage basically, which is insane. And you get Bulwark, which is immunity. So it stops you from getting defense broken, from CC'd, from stunned, and it also gives you this huge, huge damage reduction. So that's like the turn 2 playstyle. And Aurora is very good because it, drops Momentum Fury and also Bloodbath Bulwark, which is a very, very, very powerful PvP combination. So I think these 2 are the best by far. What if you can only farm Terramaton and onwards? And this is very possible because Terramaton does have very free-to-play friendly comps. And if you have any dot characters, you can farm pretty much Inferno very quickly, right? This is a good threshold as well, don't get me wrong. However, the sets are not as universal. So Onslaught is mostly going to be used for Revelation DPS characters, basically like Shiada, Messiah even for PvE, and Yeli will really like these. So yeah, obviously they're very, very widely used characters, so it does have a lot of value, but Dieting will not use this. Dieting will actually use Kenai, right? So this does have very good DPS sets and matrices. However, you have to keep in mind for the super late game when you're doing content where you're one-shotting, Momentum will outscale it. So you still get good DPS matrices, but the other ones are not that great, and that's the problem, right? You get Wellspring, which is it's only really good for Valerian, to be honest. Battle Will, which is like only good for dot teams, which isn't even required, to be honest, because there's RNG. And you get Cure, which is very good for healers, don't get me wrong, but you know, this isn't that top priority because one, it's an 8 matrix, so it's easy to get, and also two, you're not going to really need more than one set of this, right? Whereas, you know, Onslaught and Kina, you're probably going to want multiple because you might be running multiple DPSs in, you know, different content that want different, you know, stat distributions. So because of that, I think Teramaton is the least priority. So whether you want to farm it or not, it's really up to you if you need these matrix pieces. It's not bad to farm if you can farm Hell 3 and up, but Doki Doki and Aurora are going to be better if you can do them. So basically, long story short, if you can farm Hell 3 and up, Threshold's very good. However, if you still need, you know, prowess materials and EXP books and also Shadow Prints to upgrade your team that way, I would prioritize Investigation and GP Outpost over that. So yeah, that is pretty much it. You know, I have this notepad file for you on the screen just to summarize. Basically, if you're level 1 to 50, you know, the levels are very, you know, general. Just basically, if you're in the early and mid game and you can't really farm Hell 3 and 4, then definitely do GP Outpost, definitely do Investigation to start up your characters. You can get gems and summons from Investigation, and starting up your characters and prowessing them up and getting ready to skill enhance them with your lattices will make your team a lot stronger. And if you can farm Hell 3 and up, farm Thresholds, I recommend Doki Doki and Aurora. However, you know, Teramaton's still okay, and GP Outpost and Investigation should still be a very high priority if you need them for the characters that you're using, obviously, and even for future characters, because farming this outside of 2x is pretty annoying. So yeah, don't farm Thresholds below Hell 3 in my opinion, and shells are not affected by the 2x, so make sure you don't get baited and farm shells during 2x at all. You only want to farm the 3 that are affected. If you need shells still, I would still just wait until after the 2x, because you're getting double the value of your stamina by farming other things, and at that point you might as well just farm Investigations and GP Outposts for future characters. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully this helped you guys out. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys are farming during 2x, and make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video.